Springboks have won the Rugby Championship, and they've done it in pretty emphatic fashion with a 46-13 win over the Pumas in Salta in Argentina. It was a pretty dominant performance, man. Going into this one, the Springboks needed, well, prior to the All Blacks game against the Wallabies, they needed a bonus point win to be assured of top spot in the Rugby Championship. And it's almost like nobody told the Springboks that the All Blacks had lost. Like maybe Rassie confiscated everybody's phones or something. Because, yeah, they went about this like a team who wanted to accumulate points. For the Pumas, there were a few areas of concern which continue to be there. And it's a pretty poor end to the campaign for them, although there are still Rugby World Cup warm-up games to go. So ultimately, I guess they'll have one eye on that. I should say that there was a great crowd for this game. It looked to be pretty much sold out, if not sold out. And it was a beautiful day, so it was a great day for rugby. And it started off great for the Pumas. They had a try through Cordero. Sanchez put a little chip kick through. Cordero showed great hands to get the try. Like that could easily be one that you bobble or knock on, but he scored the try very, very astutely. It was good conversion, made it 7-0. After about a minute or two, so great start for the Pumas. Pollard hit back for the Springboks with a penalty on 8 minutes. Argentina then pushed back against the Springboks. They go 13 phases. Eventually, the ball comes loose. Etzebeth gets it, of all people. He goes for a line break. He gets the ball to Mostert, who keeps running. He gets the ball to Peter Toy. So this is some big guys who are just running the ball at full tilt. Eventually they go upfield and win a penalty. For that penalty they go for touch, they don't go for the sticks, and it's a good choice because Mbonambi gets his try on 12 minutes. It's from a maul. Mbonambi's throw goes to like the first jumper. It's a short line out, well at least they go to the front of the line out, and then they just set a maul, and it's about as smooth a maul as you will get. Like if you were showing it as a textbook to young rugby players about how to set a driving maul, that would be the example, because it just went straight over. Mbonambi got the try. They did miss the conversion. So it was 8 points to 7 with the Boks in front. The Pumas back in front, though, with Sanchez kicking a penalty about 4 or 5 minutes later. And that was interesting because it was not the first time and not the last time that the Springboks would kind of exit poorly after the restart. So that one, I think, was Faf de Klerk's kick, wasn't very good. And it ended up costing them points. So the Pumas went back in front with that penalty, 10 points to 8. But then a couple of minutes later, the Springboks won a scrum penalty. And scrum penalties would be largely the story of this game in terms of one way that the Springboks were able to get on top. Pollard kicks it, so they're back in front, 11 points to 10. And he kicks another one on 24 minutes, 14 points to 10. The Springboks exit from the restart there is also not very good, and Argentina from there kick a penalty to make it 13 points to 14. That's about as close as it would stay in the game, because you can see that's the last of the scoring for the Pumas. All the rest is for the Boks. Another scrum penalty on 34 minutes, and Pollard gets a try on 39. They go through the phases. Dale Lindy at one point during those phases picked up the ball around his ankles, and he wouldn't be the only guy to do that in this game for the Springboks either. So some really good commitment, some good hands around his feet. Mostert and Mbonambi, all those guys were involved in the lead up to that try, so it was good stuff. It was 24 points to 13. That's how it was at halftime. Halftime stats: the Pumas actually had slightly more possession and territory in the 50s, 56 possession and 52 territory. But the Boks had more run meters with 182 to 112, so it kind of shows you what they were doing with the ball. Springboks were tackling at 90% in that first half, whereas the Pumas were only at 78. And penalties conceded, 7 to the Pumas, only 2 to the Springboks. Largely that scrum was costly, and the Springboks were just kind of turning that screw at scrum time, as you should if you've got the dominant scrum. 49 minutes. The Pumas go on a pretty decent attack, but there's a forward pass. They go back for the advantage. They try a maul. It gets held off by the Springboks. They go phase after phase. They get more advantage. Then they knock the ball on. So if you're an Argentinian fan, this would have been a pretty frustrating game to watch because they weren't able to break that Springbok defense down, and often their own errors were costly. Eventually, though, the Argentinian pressure kind of pays off, and Faf de Klerk gets yellow carded, too many infringements. But then eventually, once Faf goes off, it's like this: the Springboks just go up another gear. They actually went from being under a fair bit of pressure and conceding the yellow card to kind of in the ascendancy. And I'm not sure how they did it. Like you saw in that earlier game with the All Blacks, the man down, they were certainly under a lot of pressure, but somehow the Springboks managed to lift with a man down. And some teams can do that. It's a pretty rare thing. Usually you can at least, I guess, defensively get a bit of cohesion going on, tackle for one another, but the Springboks went on the attack. Eventually, 57 minutes, Pollard gets a try. He hits the line at pace. Mostert had a great run in the lead up. Colby was playing 9 in the absence of Faf de Klerk, which was, I mean, cool. He's a quick guy to the breakdown. He got a decent pass. And with 14 men, they score the try. They missed the conversion, but it's 32 points to 13. So they win the yellow card 5-0. And they, as I said, they really went on the offensive. 63 minutes, Mapimpi gets a try on the left wing. They got some quick ball out wide that made it 39-13. And then 66 minutes, Colby gets a try. Stain this time is the one who picks up the ball around his ankles and gets the pass away. 46 points to 13. That's how the game ended. So 5 tries to 1. Pollard ended up with 31 points. What a player that game. His kicking wasn't 100%, but sure, he ran the game and he played the full 80. They didn't sub him. So yeah, excellent performance from the Springboks. The main thing for me for the Pumas is that scrum is worrying. I know there's been a lot of good feelings about the Pumas in Argentinian rugby, especially with the Jaguares doing so well in Super Rugby, and I am also a big supporter of what they're doing, but the scrum needs to lift because other teams will build off that scrum dominance and kick penalties and get territory, and it will be costly. It is really hard to win if your scrum is conceding as many penalties as their one did today. Other aspects of their game were okay. The handling was pretty poor at times from them, but how good were the Springboks? And absolutely, I've tweeted about it as well. Worthy winners. You go through undefeated. You go to New Zealand and get a draw, beat the Australians at home, and then go into Salta. I mean, potentially needing a bonus point win, not ending up needing a bonus point win as a victory or a draw or even a bonus point loss would have been all fine. And you still walk away with 46-13. That's quite a place the Springboks are in at the moment. Run meters were 394 to 287, so Springboks in the ascendancy, even though the Argentinians managed to remain slightly edging the possession and territory stakes. Penalties conceded actually kind of evened up throughout the game, 13-10. As I said, there was that quick succession where the Springboks were conceding penalties when they were under a bit of pressure, but their defense and their turnovers were amazing at times. They managed to hold pretty well. Tackling percentages, the Springboks remained pretty high with 85%. The Pumas at 76. Again, kind of like the Wallabies, is a stat that they would like to rise or at least increase a bit more. South African set piece was also 100%. Line out and scrum, so very, very encouraging stuff. It is such a key part of the game. In terms of individuals, Mapimpi was your top run meter getter with 61, 4 defenders beaten and 2 clean breaks. Kremer was the Argentinians' top tackler with 15 out of 17. For the Springboks, it was Mostert with 16 out of 21, so a few misses there that he would want back, but overall that guy's work rate was phenomenal. Interestingly, when the final whistle went, South Africa's celebration was pretty muted. For a team which hasn't won the Tri Nations or Rugby Championship for such a long time, you kind of get where they're at, and that their eyes are definitely on the bigger prize, as nice as it is. And like once they had the trophy, they did a mini celebration. There were smiles, there was a song, and pats on the back and whatnot. But it wasn't anything overboard. So these guys know that there's a bigger mission ahead of them, I suppose. But yeah, I was also impressed that the crowd in Argentina stayed pretty much the whole game. Like sometimes when your team is down 46-13, you see a lot of fans just kind of streaming out, but the majority of them seem to have stayed, and a lot of them stayed to see the trophy presented as well, which is very good sport. So yeah, if you're a South African, you should be very happy with where things are at the moment. You're going into a World Cup year looking to be peaking at the right time. It seems like a long time ago, 2 years or whatever it was, when the South Africans were getting beaten left, right and centre. Right now they seem like an absolute World Cup contender. For the Pumas, there's been encouraging signs this year, but the scrum I'm still very worried about. And this game, like errors, knock-ons, some silly penalties, kicking the ball out on the full or not finding touch, this kind of stuff was concerning. So the Pumas have got the players, but still not quite there. Again, kind of like the All Blacks, I would say they would rather take a result like this now, learn from it, and hopefully be better at the World Cup. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. As I said, congratulations to the Springboks. It's quite a result. It's quite a campaign they've fought. They've still got a few games to go before the World Cup, but that game against the All Blacks in the opening round of the World Cup is suddenly looking very, very interesting. I don't remember any guys getting injured in this game, which is probably a good thing because we've seen in some of the other games that there's been guys picking up knocks. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.